The first SEAL fell without making a sound. A lone round ripped his helmet off at 800 meters. Before he even touched the forest floor, the next SEAL collapsed. Then the third followed. The shots came out of nowhere. No visible flash, no noise, only death delivered with flawless precision from hidden nests in the thick mountain woods. Snipers, several firing points, everyone find cover. Lieutenant Cole Varick shouted into his radio as his team scrambled, sliding behind trees and boulders while more rounds sliced through the air. But nowhere was safe. The enemy had them locked in from every angle, overlapping fire lanes that turned the forest into a deadly arena. Staff Sergeant Mara Kincaid pressed her back against a towering pine, her pulse pounding as another round smashed into the bark 3 feet from her face. 6 enemy snipers, 6 of their most lethal marksmen, embedded in these peaks for months, killing American operators freely. Ghosts who hit and vanished, who'd taken out 24 troops in 3 months without ever being found. The SEALs had labeled them unstoppable. The briefing had warned, observe and report. Do not engage. Command had planned a huge strike with air assets and artillery to remove these shooters because facing them directly was seen as suicide. But now those snipers had struck first, and waiting for support was impossible. Mara keyed her radio, steadying her voice in the chaos. Varick, this is Kincaid. I can counter the snipers. Give me 2 minutes to set up. Negative. Kincaid, you're not a sniper. You're intelligence. Stay in cover and wait. His transmission cut as another shot made him duck. Mara didn't wait for approval. She'd spent 3 years in Army sniper school before moving to Intel. She'd taken shots these SEALs couldn't imagine, and she was done letting good operators die while everyone assumed she only processed data. She slung her M110 SAS across her shoulder and moved. What happened over the next 18 minutes would prove that some threats were only unstoppable until someone with the right skill set chose to end them. But before we show how she hunted 6 ghost shooters through the mountain forest, drop a comment saying where you're watching from and hit subscribe, because this tale on Old Bill's Tales shows the most dangerous hunter is often the one nobody sees coming. Now let's dive in. The mission had begun 12 hours earlier with a helicopter drop into the Red Summit Range along the hostile border. 12 SEALs assigned to recon and intel gathering on enemy movement across the region, and Mara Kincaid, the intel specialist, expected to stay at the command post and analyze data while the real operators worked. Except Mara Kincaid was far more than an intel specialist. At 31, she had lived 3 military paths. First as an Army sniper, graduating top of her class, scoring confirmed kills on 2 deployments. Then as a designated marksman instructor, training elite units in precision shooting. Then as an intel transfer where her analytical skill and deep knowledge of sniper tactics made her vital for counter-sniper missions. But to the SEAL element she accompanied, she was just the intel girl, the analyst, the one who stayed behind reading reports while they entered the field. They'd never asked about her past. They'd noticed the intel insignia on her uniform and jumped to conclusions. Now those assumptions were getting them killed. The team had been advancing through thick mountain timber. Pine, oak, and cedar formed a canopy so dense the sunlight barely reached rocky ledges jutting from the slopes and deep ravines slicing through the ground. Ideal terrain for snipers. Hundreds of firing spots offering cover in long-range lines. Ground that made any conventional push nearly hopeless. They'd been 3 hours into the patrol when the opening shot hit. Petty Officer Grant Maddox had been leading, moving cautiously through the brush. The round struck his head, piercing his helmet and dropping him instantly. The suppressed shot was so soft, they barely knew he'd been hit until he fell. Then the real barrage began. Chief Rowan Hale took a round through the shoulder, spinning him sideways and hurling him into the brush. Petty Officer Ethan Rourke tried to reach him but was hit in the thigh, the round shattering his femur. In under 30 seconds, the 12-man SEAL element was down to 9 able fighters, trapped in a forest that had turned into a shooting gallery. Lieutenant Cole Varick tried to form a defense, but every spot they moved to was already pre-sighted. The snipers had marked every likely position and had likely tracked them for hours, waiting for the perfect moment to spring the ambush. "We need immediate air support," Varric yelled into his radio. "6 hostile snipers, positions unknown. We're taking casualties. Air support is 45 minutes away," replied the ops center. "Apaches are inbound, but they need your exact location and target coordinates. 45 minutes. At this pace, they'd be gone in 10. Mara had been near the center of the formation when the ambush hit. Her training took over instantly. She'd been under sniper fire before, had fought in live engagements, understood how to read a battlefield. While the SEALs scrambled for shelter, she was analyzing angles, tracking impacts, and calculating likely sniper points from trajectory and timing. She identified the first enemy perch within 2 minutes, a rocky rise 700 meters uphill, giving perfect concealment and elevation. The shooter would be prone, likely in a shallow natural dip using vegetation for cover. The second spot revealed itself when muzzle gas rustled pine needles. Almost invisible, but Mara's trained eye caught it. Ridgeline 600 meters northeast, probably behind a fallen log. She keyed her radio again. "Varric, I can take these shooters. I'm trained for this. Kincaid, stay in your lane. We don't need intel trying to act like a sniper." Another SEAL screamed as a round tore into his leg. 8 effectives now, with more wounded needing care they couldn't give under fire. Mara made her call. Varric could court-martial her later if they lived. Right now, people were dying, and she had the ability to stop it. She moved low and fast through the brush, using folds in the terrain to hide her from the nests she'd located. Her M110 was ideal. The semi-auto 7.62 NATO rifle accurate to 800 meters, suppressed to reduce signature. Not as powerful as a bolt-action 300 Win mag, but quicker for follow-ups and perfect for these distances. She found a perch 30 meters from the pinned team, a group of boulders that offered concealment and angles on the enemy hides. She settled in, slowing her breathing, letting her pulse drop, becoming motionless. Through her optic, she scanned the rocky rise where she'd placed the first sniper. Nothing visible at first but stone and brush. But she knew how to search, recognized the tiny cues that revealed a hidden marksman. There, a shadow too even, a shape that didn't fit the terrain. The sniper was using a camouflage net that blended flawlessly with the rock. Most operators would never notice. Mara was not most operators. She calculated the shot. 715 meters. Wind about 8 miles per hour, moving left to right. Elevation around 15 degrees, temperature near 72, all factors shifting the round's path. She dialed her scope, compensating for each variable, then placed her crosshairs where she knew his head would be, slightly left of the shadow, adjusting for net offset. She controlled her breath. Exhale. Natural pause. Press. The M110 coughed softly, the suppressor giving it a crack distinct from the enemy rifles. Through the glass, she saw the net jerk, then sag. The first sniper was down, but 5 remained, and they now knew someone was firing back. At once, their fire shifted toward her. Rounds snapped overhead and hammered the stones around her. The enemy snipers were trying to bracket her position, hold her down, stop her from firing again. Mara rolled left, shifting to a spot 10 meters away before they could dial in her range. She'd learned in sniper school, never shoot twice from the same place. Move, fire, move again. From her new angle, she searched for the second shooter, the one on the ridgeline behind the fallen log. He'd changed spots after watching his partner fall, now sharper, more cautious, but he'd slipped up. He'd shifted to get a clearer line on Mara's first perch, and by doing so, he let the top of his ghillie hood show above the log. Just inches, nearly invisible, but enough. Shot 2, 625 meters. The ridge altered the wind flow. She had to correct for drift around the terrain. Mara ran the math instantly and fired. The ghillie suit snapped. The second hostile sniper was down. 4 remained. The others were getting clever. They halted fire, went completely quiet, trying to melt into the woods and wait for Mara to reveal herself. But silence cut both ways. While they stayed still, Mara kept shifting. She moved 40 meters downslope, finding a pocket of dense brush that limited her view but hid her well. From here, she saw little of the battlefield, but she could monitor the routes the enemy would need if they wanted new angles on the SEALs, and she waited. Patience was a sniper's strongest asset. 5 minutes passed, then 10. The SEALs used the lull to treat their wounded and tighten their lines. Lieutenant Cole Varick kept hailing her on radio, demanding to know her status. She ignored him, watching her lane for the slightest movement. There, a flick of brown fabric sliding between trees 400 meters away. One enemy sniper was repositioning, aiming to flank the SEALs. Mara tracked him through her optic, waiting for the moment he'd stop long enough to give her a clean hit. He was skilled. He moved in short bursts, used cover expertly, never exposed himself longer than a heartbeat. But he made one mistake. He stopped behind a tree to scan with his binoculars. For a brief instant, his shoulder and part of his head appeared beyond the trunk. It was enough. Shot 3, 430 meters. Easy angle, light wind, clear sight. The sniper crumpled behind the tree. 3 down, 3 left. But now the remaining shooters knew they were being hunted and were adapting fast. Mara saw the muzzle flash before she heard the round. One of the last snipers had fired from an angle she hadn't expected. The bullet hit 6 inches from her face, pelting her with bark and fragments. She rolled hard right as 2 more rounds struck where she'd been. They'd triangulated her, trying to box her in with coordinated fire. Time to shift again. She belly-crawled 15 meters through brush that tore at her sleeves, then pushed upslope another 20 meters, lungs burning, rifle held tight. When she reached a shallow dip behind a fallen tree, she was 50 meters from where the enemy assumed she was. Through her optic, she scanned the area the rounds had come from. 2 snipers were working as a pair, coordinating every shot. Smart tactics, much tougher to counter. She found one first, set up in a tree stand 20 feet high in a massive oak, using the altitude for better view and reach. A brilliant nest, almost impossible to assault head-on but exposed from just the right angle. Mara had that angle. Shot 4, 520 meters, upward correction to account for height and branches partly blocking the view. Her round punched through the platform beneath him, passed through his torso, and sent him crashing from the tree. Instantly, the 5th sniper fired back at her muzzle flash. Mara was already shifting, but the round smashed into her M110 stock, splintering the wood and sending the rifle spinning. She snatched it, inspecting the damage. The rifle still worked, but the stock was cracked and might fail completely if stressed. She would have to control her recoil differently now. 2 snipers remained, and they knew her general position. For the next 3 minutes, it became a lethal game of cat and mouse. The enemy marksman fired to pin her. She shifted positions, found new lines, and scanned for them through her scope. They were skilled, some of the best she had ever faced. They moved like shadows, using every scrap of cover and synchronizing their actions to protect each other. But Mara had one edge they didn't realize she possessed. She'd been marking their rhythm, reading their habits, predicting their choices through terrain study and tactical logic. When the 5th sniper shifted to what he believed was an ideal flanking lane, Mara was already positioned and waiting. He stepped into her scope's view, slipping between 2 boulders, convinced he couldn't be seen. Shot 5, 380 meters, center mass, since the opportunity was small. The hostile sniper collapsed instantly. 1 remained. The final sniper was the most skilled of the group. Mara could sense it by the way he moved, how he anticipated her shifts, how he'd survived while every teammate had fallen. He was patient, staying hidden, refusing to fire unless the kill was certain. But Mara's ammunition was running low. 3 rounds left in her magazine, no spares. She'd carried little ammo because she was supposed to be only an intel asset. 1 sniper, 3 bullets. She had to use them perfectly. She moved again, climbing upslope toward where she'd calculated the last shooter would be. The terrain tightened here. Cliffs on one side, a sharp drop on the other. Few viable positions. It had to be in one of 3 spots. She checked the first, empty, The second, nothing. That left the third, a natural rock hollow forming a flawless hide with full command over the valley. If she were the sniper, she'd choose that one. She crept up from below, using dead ground to hide her advance, keeping herself as small as possible. When she gained a workable angle, she steadied her breathing and scanned through the optic. At first, nothing. Then, barely a flick of motion, the sniper was there, camouflaged so well he nearly vanished into the rock. But the subtle shift of his position had betrayed him. The issue was she couldn't see enough for a clean kill. Only a sliver of what might be his shoulder, half hidden by stone and brush. A low-probability shot, but it was her only option. Mara ran the numbers. 290 meters, almost no wind. The true difficulty was the target itself. If she misread the shape, she'd waste a round and reveal her location. If she was right but struck rock, the outcome was the same. She had to rely on training, instinct, and thousands of hours behind a scope. She fired. Through her optics, she saw the hit land. The shoulder jolted, but the sniper stayed alive. Wounded, but still lethal. 2 rounds left. Return fire came instantly. The injured sniper, still deadly, sent rounds snapping toward her spot. Mara rolled aside as bullets tore into the dirt she'd occupied a moment earlier. She had to end it now. No more stalking. No more slow movement. She had 2 rounds left and a sniper who now knew her exact location. Mara broke every rule taught in sniper doctrine. She charged. She burst from cover and sprinted uphill toward the hide. Rifle ready, using trees for partial concealment, pushing hard. The sniper fired and missed. Fired again. The round skimmed past, so close she felt the shockwave. She dove behind a boulder 20 meters from his hide, chest heaving, adrenaline surging. 1 round left in the magazine. She could hear him shifting in the hide, likely trying to reposition, aware she was too close for him to retain advantage. Mara rose, lifted her rifle, and searched through the scope. There, he was climbing from his nest, trying to reach better terrain, his injured shoulder slowing him. Their eyes locked through their scopes. A brief, frozen instant where each recognized the other's mastery, the deadly duel they'd waged, the respect between warriors even as one hunted the other. Then Mara fired her final round. The sniper fell, and the forest grew silent. 18 minutes from first shot to last. 6 enemy snipers killed and 0 friendly casualties once Mara engaged. She keyed her radio. "Varric, this is Kincaid. All 6 hostile snipers neutralized. You're clear to stabilize the wounded and call for extraction." A long silence followed. Then Varric's voice returned, thick with stunned disbelief. "Kincaid, did you just take out all 6 of them?" "Affirmative. But I'll need more ammo. I'm Winchester." She headed back down the slope toward the regrouping SEAL element. As she stepped from the tree line, all 8 surviving operators stared at her like she'd stepped out of myth. Varric spoke first. "You want to explain how an intel analyst just dropped 6 enemy snipers we've been struggling with for 3 months? Mara slung her damaged rifle behind her. "I'm not only an intel analyst, Lieutenant. I earned Army sniper qualification before moving to intel. 3 years in sniper school, 2 combat tours, 43 confirmed kills. I study enemy sniper methods because I used to be one. But people see the intel patch and assume that's all I offer." Chief Rowan Hale, gripping his injured shoulder, chuckled through the pain. 43? Make that 49 now. Those shots were unreal, Kincaid. That tree stand kill, the one through the camo net, those weren't just good shots. That was elite-grade precision. I had strong instructors, Mara answered calmly. And those enemy snipers, talented as they were, made errors. They assumed I was just another target. They never expected someone to hunt them back. Petty Officer Lena Calder, the squad medic, worked over the wounded. Whatever your background is, you saved our skins. We'd all be gone if you hadn't stepped in. The remaining SEALs started securing the perimeter while Calder stabilized casualties. Mara moved among them, offering help where needed. Her brain was already flipping back into intel mode, logging enemy hides, noting their layouts, collecting details that would shape future missions. "Kincaid," Varric called out. "Come take a look at this." He was standing at the first sniper hide, the rocky shelf where Mara had delivered her opening shot. The dead shooter still lay in place, his camouflage net arranged flawlessly. His rifle, a premium Russian SVD Dragunov with high-end optics. "This guy was a pro," Varric said, inspecting the site. Pre-marked distance notes on the rocks, multiple fallback spots prepped, exit routes planned. These weren't ordinary shooters. They were top tier. Mara knelt, analyzing everything. "See the wear on the rifle? This weapon's been heavily used. And look here," she traced small cuts on the stock. "Tally marks. He'd claimed at least 18 kills, 18 American operators," Varric muttered. "And you dropped him with a single round through camo we couldn't even detect." They moved on to the second hide, the ridgeline spot behind the fallen log. This one was equally disciplined with preset lanes and mapped escape routes. These snipers had worked this ground for months, Mara noted. They understood every contour. Each position supported the others, overlapping fire, rehearsed fallback paths. This wasn't random. This was a coordinated sniper cell operating like a machine. "Until they met someone better," Hale said, limping up despite his injury. "6 of their best versus 1 of ours, and we know who won." As they documented the positions, Petty Officer Ryan Kelso approached Mara. He was the youngest operator, barely 23, and he looked rattled. "Staff Sergeant Kincaid, I need to say something. Before the mission, I heard guys saying you'd slow us down, that an intel analyst in the field was dead weight. I believed them. I'm sorry." Mara looked at him steadily. "Kelso, don't apologize for assumptions made without full context. That's human nature. The lesson isn't guilt. It's understanding that job titles don't reveal someone's full capability set. I don't broadcast my sniper background because I'm building an intel career, but those skills never vanished." "Well, you sure taught all of us something today," Kelso said. "Those 6 snipers were legendary. Command called them unstoppable, and you ended them in 18 minutes. The extraction bird arrived 40 minutes after Mara's last shot. As the CH-47 Chinook descended into a clearing, the crew chief's eyes widened at the wounded being loaded aboard. "What happened out here?" he yelled over the blades. "Enemy sniper ambush," Varric replied. 6 hostiles neutralized by counter-sniper fire. 6? How many counter-snipers did you bring?" Varric looked toward Mara, who was lifting a wounded SEAL into the aircraft. "Only 1, and she's supposed to be an intel analyst." The crew chief followed his gaze, noting Mara's slight frame, intel insignia, cracked rifle. "That analyst took out 6 enemy snipers." 18 minutes, Hale added, wincing as medics strapped him down. 6 targets, 6 kills, no misses. I've been doing this 12 years and I've never witnessed shooting like that. Back at base 8 hours later, Mara sat through the longest debrief of her career. The operations center was packed. Senior officers, intel teams, sniper instructors, mission planners. Everyone wanted to understand how one operator had accomplished what entire teams had failed to solve for 3 straight months. She walked them through her methods, projecting a tactical map and marking each enemy hide. The first sniper was positioned here, relying on terrain masking and camo netting. I spotted him by a shadow mismatch and unnatural angles in the rock line. Shot distance was 715 meters with an 8-mile-per-hour crosswind. A Marine sniper instructor, Master Sergeant Nolan Briggs, cut in. "You made that shot through camo netting you couldn't actually see through. I estimated where his head should be based on terrain geometry and the angle of his firing lane. The net offset was around 6 inches left of the shadow. I adjusted for that in my point of aim." Briggs gave a low whistle. "That's beyond marksmanship. That's tactical reasoning at a level most snipers never reach." Mara continued detailing each engagement, explaining her choices, her movement cycles, her ammo discipline. When she reached the final fight, the uphill charge with only 2 rounds left. Several officers exchanged skeptical looks. Staff Sergeant Kincaid, Colonel Dana Whitlock said, "You broke every rule regarding sniper engagement range. Why rush an enemy hide with almost no ammunition?" "Because I'd already wounded him and he knew my location. Staying at distance meant a drawn-out fight I couldn't win with limited rounds. By pushing in aggressively, I forced him off balance, made him react to me instead of following his plan. It was high risk, but the calculated odds favored the move. Assertive action paired with technical accuracy," Whitlock noted. "That's a rare mix. Most snipers stay cautious to the point of being static." "Most snipers haven't served in intelligence," Mara answered. "My analyst background taught me to judge probabilities and act with incomplete data. I merged that with sniper fundamentals: patience when needed, aggression when required." The intelligence chief, Lieutenant Commander Owen Travers, leaned forward. "The hide sites you marked and documented. This is gold for future missions. You didn't just neutralize the threat. You gathered intelligence that will save lives later. That's exactly the blend of capability we need more of." Over the next days, Mara's actions drew major attention across the special operations community. Word spread. The intel analyst who eliminated 6 enemy snipers in 18 minutes, using skills no one knew she possessed because no one asked. Varick's SEAL team officially requested she be permanently assigned to them. "We need someone with your hybrid skill set," Varick told her in a briefing. "You understand both the intel framework and the tactical execution. That combination is rare, but Mara had other intentions. I'm grateful for the offer, Lieutenant, but I didn't switch to intelligence to return to full-time shooting. What I did out there was necessary, but that's not the long-term path I'm aiming for." "Then what are you aiming for?" "I want exactly what I did out there. Use intelligence analysis fused with tactical skill. Identify enemy sniper threats before they strike our forces. And, when required, have the authority to remove those threats myself." That conversation ultimately led to the creation of a brand new role. Counter-sniper operations specialist Mara would study enemy sniper behavior, pinpoint high-value shooters, plan counter-sniper missions, and, when needed, carry them out herself. She'd hunt snipers with intelligence 90% of the time and with a rifle the other 10. The perfect balance of her dual abilities. Her promotion arrived 3 weeks later. Sergeant First Class Mara Kincaid assigned to Joint Special Operations Command's Counter-Sniper Operations Division. Her first assignment: analyze hostile sniper activity across the entire theater and design methods to eliminate the threat. She built a compact team, 2 intelligence analysts, 3 sniper instructors, and 1 tactical coordinator. Together, they charted enemy sniper movements, spotting patterns individual units missed because they only saw isolated fragments. Within 2 months, Mara's team had located 3 additional sniper cells operating in separate sectors. Using their gathered intelligence, they coordinated strikes that removed 2 cells without firing a single rifle round. Precision artillery guided entirely by Mara's mapping of enemy hides and movement cycles. The 3rd cell required boots on the ground. Mara led a 4-person team into the field, using her knowledge of sniper doctrine to predict the enemy's next hide. They intercepted the 3-man cell during a relocation, taking all 3 down with synchronized fire before the enemy could react. Her methodology became doctrine, intelligence-driven counter-sniper warfare, merging analytical pattern mapping with direct tactical precision. Other units began adopting her hybrid model, building their own intel combat fusion teams. But she never forgot those 18 minutes in the mountain forest. The 6 enemy shooters who believed they couldn't be touched. The SEALs who assumed she was nothing more than an analyst. The moment old skills resurfaced and proved they'd never faded. They'd simply waited for the moment they were needed. The SEAL team kept her cracked rifle mounted in their team room with a plaque. SSG Mara Kincaid. 6 targets, 18 minutes. 0 margin for error. The analyst who hunted ghosts. And in the mountains where those snipers reigned for months, American forces moved without fear, no longer threatened by unseen death from hidden perches. The danger was ended not by air power or artillery or massive maneuvers, but by one woman with a rifle, 18 minutes, and abilities everyone underestimated because they judged her by her job title instead of her full capability. Lieutenant Cole Varick visited her office 6 months after the operation. "I wanted to give you an update," he said. "We've run 17 patrols through that sector since you cleared it. 0 casualties, 0 contact. You didn't just eliminate 6 threats. You opened an entire operational corridor that was locked down for months." "That's the impact of removing a strategic threat," Mara answered, gesturing to the intelligence map on her wall showing sniper activity patterns. Those 6 weren't just marksmen. They were a psychological weapon. Every patrol feared them. Taking them out removed the physical danger and the fear that came with it. "Speaking of which," Varick continued, "I brought you something." He offered her a small wooden box. Inside lay the scope from the first sniper she killed, the one beneath the camouflage net. "We recovered it from his hide. Thought you might want it as a reminder." Mara studied the scope. High-grade optics, heavily customized, meticulously cared for. This belonged to someone who took their craft seriously, a person who devoted their life to mastering something deadly. "I respect that, even though we were on opposite ends," she said. "That's what sets you apart from most operators," Varick replied. "You recognize your adversary, respect their skill, yet still outthink and outfight them. That's what makes you exceptional at this." The commendations arrived quietly. Combat awards that couldn't be publicly mentioned because the mission remained classified. But throughout the special operations world, Mara Kincaid became a name spoken with genuine respect. The operator who proved that job labels meant little, that capability mattered more than assigned roles, that the quiet professional was often the most formidable presence in the room. She kept working, tracking hostile snipers through intelligence assessment and, when required, through precise rifle fire. She trained others in her approach, forging a new generation of operators who knew the best answer to a sniper threat wasn't always another sniper. Sometimes it was an analyst who thought like one and could pull the trigger like one too. And she never forgot what those 18 minutes had taught her. Mastery in one domain doesn't fade simply because you shift to another. Skills layered, strengths multiplied, and the most valuable operators were those who could merge multiple disciplines into a single solution. The mountains stayed silent, their forests no longer sheltering hidden death in camouflaged nests. The enemy learned that American forces had operators who could track ghosts, see the unseen, and shut down the unstoppable. They learned it from 6 fallen snipers and 1 intelligence analyst who showed that the deadliest weapon wasn't always the rifle. It was the mind directing it, trained in analysis and action, capable of patience and precision. Sergeant First Class Mara Kincaid had been underestimated because of assumptions about what analysts could do. She shattered those assumptions with 18 minutes of flawless shooting and a career proving that capability has no job title. The SEALs who fought beside her never judged another operator by insignia again. The enemy snipers who believed themselves invincible learned their error too late, and Mara kept going, quiet and steady. The analyst who hunted with brains and with steel, the warrior who proved that excellence across disciplines creates abilities far beyond any single field. 6 snipers, 18 minutes, 1 operator who refused to let anyone else define her potential. The forest remembered. The SEALs remembered. And every hostile sniper who heard the story learned to fear the operators they couldn't see, the analysts who might be far more than they appeared, the silent professionals whose skills waited, patient and lethal, for the moment they were needed. Unstoppable was just a word. Mara Kincaid proved it could be broken with intelligence, precision, and 18 minutes of execution when it counted most. If this story moved you, don't forget to subscribe for more inspiring tales of courage.